Ewan Paterson, brilliant creative, a great mate. Been longing to get him on, been ill a bit. So much to go at.
Yeah, got loads of work to get through.
Loads of work. It's going to be difficult to avoid the footy.
Are you standing up or sitting down?
Well, I am sitting down, but I will have to stand up a little bit because I have this injury.
You've hurt your back?
Yeah. Well, the very, very lowest area of my back.
The upper area of your bottom.
Someone said to me, when football commentators say it's right at the top of his leg. And I'll leave it there. But it's lovely to see you. And should we go and get him?
It's good to be back.
Yeah. All right. I'll go and get him. Ewan Paterson, welcome to Behind the Billboard.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming today. We really appreciate it. A bit protracted after various bits of illness. On your part, illness is now on this side of the table, which we'll talk about later.
Yeah, sorry about cancelling that.
That's fine. So
we'd rather hear you, that's for sure. So.
Yes, you sound like your voice is all right. You're sucking on a mint there.
Yes, you'll hear that, man. I'm on my 17th Strepsil of the day. Slightly addicted to them.
We always ask people, what are you up to at the moment? Because I sense there's new ventures afoot.
I am.
Are you allowed to talk about it?
Yeah.
Have you got an agent yet for your art?
So I think I finished full-time work about 3 weeks ago. I finished. I finished at Mullen Lowe, which obviously was full-time, and in my head, I think that will be my last full-time job in advertising. But I say that in that I would really like to continue to be involved. So I'm talking to 2 or 3 agencies about some kind of non-exec thing, which is always a bit of a funny title. But if I can end up kind of doing a day a week or a couple of days a month where I have agencies.
I think it's when the money runs out and then you go back, don't you?
That's exactly what it is. So I've tried to put salesmanship on it, but
I remember Kes Gray at Saatchi's, God bless him, great lad, and he said, right, I'm off to write some children's books. And it was like, great. And he did, and then he came back. I said, I need some money. But I think it's sort of a bit of both, isn't it? You kind of dip.
And is that about the industry for you? Is that
No, it's totally about, it's about having done it for a long time.
Right, okay.
And then last summer, I just had one of those moments in your life where I thought, actually, I need to flip the dynamic. The dynamic has always been work came first.
Yeah.
And I don't say that in a good way or a proud way, but it's always been work first, and then the life and family has to kind of gather behind it. And I just got to that point where actually I need to flip it so family come first and then work can be behind it.
I think the pandemic's had a role in that as well. Has that been a...
Well, I think it has. I think it has in the way we work, but also just, family life. Things happened in our family that you went, actually, my family need me more than...
Yeah.
I think it's lots of things, isn't it? But
that's really brave to make that decision, though. So kudos.
The reason I said I think at the start was that's what I think. You know what I mean? But it may be I go. Yeah, I need work. I can't do anything else without it, or maybe I can find other stuff to do.
Yeah, but if you don't try, you're never going to know, are you?
It's exciting, though. I mean, it's a...
Yeah. Which is why if I could find a way of doing, say, 4 days a month, coming into town, meeting people, staying young, keeping your brain going, then that would...
This is a bit like a sort of semi-recruitment ad, isn't it? If there's anybody listening out there. I mean,
isn't that what this is?
Yeah.
We've always talked about that, you and I, haven't we, as oxygen, the oxygen that you need. And there's creative oxygen, for one, like coming into town. I don't know where you live, I'm out in the sticks, but coming back in after being stuck at home all that time, it was so great to just be back around people again. No offense to my family or the friends I've got locally, but it's so great to be back in the middle of town and seeing what else is going on, because you find yourself stuck in that little bubble, and it's nice to have that oxygen to come back in. So you're doing that 4 or 5 days a month. Brilliant. Yeah.
And I think coming back to your thing about the pandemic, I think what's clearly happened in the last 2 years, and I think probably will continue, is people aren't going to work 5 days a week.
Yeah.
And actually, I think agencies may be like 2 days a week. And actually, as much as I love the work, it is the people that make you want to be part of advertising.
Yeah.
And actually, if you're not seeing them 5 days a week, going to the pub, all that stuff, actually you lose some of that magic, really. You know what I mean? I think that probably has been as much of it.
I read an article yesterday about the kind of the ideas that, as people were stuck at home, the ideas that came out as they were stuck at home looking for inspiration around their room. It's quite interesting.
That's
the
quite
IKEA
limited.
one was brilliant. It's good stuff from.
I got to say,
when you're forced into kind of obscurity, you have to come up with something for a brief. So,
well, it's interesting, isn't it? Because I was always a very bad creative partner, in that. And I worked with lots of different people, was maybe because I was a dreadful creative one. But I wasn't very good at sitting across the table, because I'd assume I've got to say something, you say something, you say something. And actually, after a while, I would worked out the best way for me would be to go away, have some quite formed ideas, and come back and say, "What do you think of this?" Which is what like I worked with Nick Gill 3 times, and that's how we would work, and that worked well. And I think the pandemic has made creatives work that way, because actually they're apart.
Yeah.
So I think that has been beneficial for lots of creators. They go, actually, I'm thinking more for myself and coming forward with fully finished, rather than that terribly polite. What do you think of what, and you're desperately trying to fill the void of space, you know what I mean? And go.
But is that a bit of a maturity thing as well? Because when you start off, you're like looking at each other, going, let's do this, do that. And like you say, now I actually really like just walking away and just sitting in the corner and having a little noodle, and then whatever. And you can see someone. I just wanted to say, gutted that I didn't work with you at Mullen Lowe, actually. Me and Louisa, my old partner, so we did miss you there, but here we are.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about billboards today. Much as we want to talk about everything, we could throw in a bit of footy if you fancy, Champions League and all that. But billboards, we're going to squeeze in 8 of your campaigns, hopefully.
Right. So, but before we do that, we've got this new feature for this. I say a new feature, not really.
It's becoming a regular feature.
It's a regular feature. We have a regular feature, the billboard at the end of my street, and this is kind of.
I'm at that point with the Strepsil. We're on to chew it now. I realise
you chew it.
There you go.
There you go. The noise is gone. The billboard at the end of my street. So this is the first billboard you saw as you came out of your house.
It is, actually.
Wow.
So yes.
Do you want to describe? Who wants to describe? I have to say, this is pretty good compared to some of the things we've had. So I'll describe it. It says headline: no dish, no box, just magic, and it's sky glass. So I took this when I was meant to do this a month ago, right?
And I went. So when the question of the billboard at the end of the road, I do have this. So I walked down to the high street to get the bus. That's my poster. So I do have one at the end of my road, and actually. If I'd taken that month before, there was a brilliant poster for a local plumber that was done by them, and actually was a really good poster.
On the same site?
On the same site, because it was just literally these picture of the 2 blokes, and we do plumbing, and a phone number, and I just thought, actually, you go, actually, if you've got that pretty good, haven't you? So whereas this was, when I walked down the road, hoping there was going to be the 2 plumbers, there was this.
Right.
But it is quite a good example of what I think is bad about posters now, even though Hugh, you say it's quite good for
our
comparison.
And I don't mean to knock the people who have done this, but it's actually it's a pretty good TV campaign and multi-channel campaign. And if you watch the TV, it's pretty good. I'm sure it's doing a good job, and it features this little boy who thinks that.
Is it still from the TV?
But that's what this poster is. It's a support medium, and I think, I've always thought a lot about posters, but obviously coming on this, you kind of rethink about their stuff. And whereas posters, the best posters, and it used to be much more, but still is a bit, is a media in its own right, and it's brand building and it's magical. The industry has moved more towards, this is where, you can imagine in creative meetings and agencies, they sit there and go, what's the film? Or maybe what's the digital banner, or very important stuff. And don't worry about the poster, because it will be a still from that.
Yeah.
So I think it's probably doing a very good job, and it's part of a bigger campaign, which is very good. But as a poster lover, you do go, why didn't they take that idea of just magic and do the poster version of it?
I feel like it's someone who's read some media effectiveness report that says if you take a still from your TV, it makes your TV more effective, and you've used that as your poster.
It might be that, or it might just be laziness or a lack of belief in posters.
It's also, if you've got, always made me think of Honda when, if you're in end line says the power of dreams, you've got to do something pretty good. And they finally did when they start doing cog and stuff. So if you're going to say magic in your line, you need to do something special with your poster. So it does fail on that front quite badly. I haven't seen the film, the TV. So again, I'm sort of lost a bit. So I'm looking at it going, there's a bit of sparkle. I mean, that's like page 1, isn't it? Magic, bit of sparkle.
I mean,
Let's go to the pub.
I imagine, if the people involved listen to this, I can imagine they'll sit there and go, but actually we had a great poster idea.
Yeah.
And actually it may well have just been budget.
Yeah.
Or it may have been actually, you've just got to take a sell, or they may have, posters may have been, we're going to put some posters up and at the last minute.
This is not knocking Sky because they are a massive advertiser in the out-of-home space. They're one of the top 3 advertisers in the space, massive investors in the medium. But because of that, Sky Creative, they've got in-house and they've got a couple of other agency partners. They are inundated with the briefs that have to do the football, they have to do the movies, they have to do the new product launches, and you can pretty much go around any corner and see an advert for Sky on outdoor. So I wonder if there's just a bit of the machine at play there as well for them.
Yes.
Like, this is the tried and tested process. We've got the TV, it's a new product launch, we've got to put it still up on the TV,
I just realised I've got quite a few friends that work at Sky, so
no, it's interesting, isn't it? We haven't had those guys on, so they can come on and tell us.
I think what is good, what works is, it's got a headline, it's quite short, it's got a logo, it's got a lovely visual. Like, these are things that have not appeared on many ads we've seen. But what it is, I think, is for me and Dan and the guests to get a feeling of what is out there and what the public walking past every day, and what is, what's the temperature.
And it's interesting because I hadn't thought through what you've just said, Hugh, that actually, if you listed all the posters that are out there, when I took that would be towards the top.
Yeah.
Well,
which is accolade to that, but sad for posters.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think in the old days, not the old days, if you said to a young team, right, you've got a big poster, if it's for Sky, and they got good money, and you think, fucking great. And then you get to the end of the meeting, and in your mind, you're thinking, I can do this, do that special build. And someone goes, oh, by the way, just need to make sure you use the assets off the TV.
Yeah.
And then your heart sinks.
Or there might be some other posters for this that are brilliant, and we just haven't spotted them.
True.
This might be 5% of the media schedule.
There's this whole thing in outdoor where they go, right, well, I want, they call it cover and frequency, which is I want to be everywhere and I want as many people to see it as possible, as many times as possible. So they put the kind of the simple message everywhere so that people see it multiple times. And then they do a one-off special in Waterloo Station that is a bit more magic, or they do a special build, one-off special build. So they do it, and I think we're probably guilty on the show of going back too often to the good old days. You got to remember, there was a load of shit out there as well.
Oh, yeah.
There was a load of real crap outdoor, but the stuff that was there that was brilliant really elevated, and it elevated the space.
And it may just be selective memory.
Yeah, because we remember the good stuff that won at
because there is great
at Cannes.
There is great posters out.
Yeah, there is.
But I mean, your thing was the opportunity to see. That's the thing I hate most about advertising, as opposed to want to see.
Yeah,
we're driven by this. They've got to see it 3 times to remember, and all that kind of stuff. As opposed to, do people want to see it? And that's the most important thing.
And people rely on that science too much when they're coming up with and it may be the strategist, it may be the planner, it may be the media agency. I don't know who it is that's making the great ideas sit on the 5% rather than the 95% of the plan, but it's and it's also how we can help turn the dial.
I remember Heg saying this thing about just want a brilliant, if you run something amazing once, people see it and talk about it, and now they'll share it like hell on Instagram. But if you run a shit ad 400 times, it's still shit, and no one's 4,000. And it was quite interesting listening to him saying, you only need to see Apple, the original Apple, once, and you go, oh my God.
But it's the same thing. The other thing that drives me mad is there's some percentage that's set in stone about how much you should spend on production relative to media.
Oh yeah.
Which is the biggest pile of rubbish ever, isn't it?
Seriously?
Yeah.
Who's done that?
It's a known thing, isn't it? You present something and they'll go, well, the media schedule's this, so this is how
5% of that should be on production.
It's like,
what? Who said that? Yeah.
And then you
let's get them on.
That really winds me up because we do loads of interactive stuff, augmented reality on one-off sites. And it's a bit like the survival billboard. It's a one-off, and there's other aspects to it than just the media it's intended to play out on originally. But we have that argument all the time when we go. They say, "Well, we're spending 100,000 on media." Well, yeah, you need 100,000 on this tech idea as well. Like, whoa, that's the same amount on media as creative. Yeah. If that's your idea.
Well, in your case, it'll. But I mean, again, we're sweeping generalizations. I've worked with brilliant clients who completely ignored that.
Yeah.
I remember when I worked at CHI, which is now the AND Partnership, and we had a brilliant client on Britvic, Jonathan Gatwood, and we made a film where we remade the Brains puppet. So we had to remake the puppet because the puppet didn't exist. And I think we had a whole media plan of everything was like 2 million, maybe. And we spent 900 grand, nearly half of it, on making the puppet and the commercial, and it ran 6 times, 2 minutes long, and it was the best thing that they ever did. And
it's famous.
It takes a brave client, doesn't it, to approve it? And
but then the other way around, you can do something which costs nothing, just like a headline, like "Hello Boys,"
totally,
something like that, and it flies, So I think, well, like you said, there shouldn't be a rule. You go, we didn't have any much production there. Can we have that money for the next time? It's like, it doesn't work like that.
Oh no, totally right. We shouldn't be saying you need to spend the money at all. No, but you shouldn't have.
So aside from this, what we have decided is at the upper end of average out of home. Have you seen any really good out of home, either out and about or on your social feeds recently?
So I think what you said earlier is true. There's, we'll probably look back in 20 years' time and think posters were very good. Now I think the McDonald's we deliver, with the
lights,
the yellow of the McDonald's M coming through the window, I think that is sensational.
Yeah.
I think it's at home at its best. I think it's one of those ones also I thought about it afterwards. Because it's always interesting how people look back on an ad and think it's easy and simple as opposed to when you're trying to create it. And actually, it's a bit of an odd idea, isn't it? That, you know what I mean? That the big M is behind the window, you can see through it. Yeah. But that it works magically, doesn't it? And I think...
and actually for the period in time as well, for the fact that they launched it while everyone was at home, there's a whole...
so I think, I was kind of thinking the last couple of days what would be, happening now that I'd love to have done that. And, I think it's also interesting, isn't it, at the moment, that if you think about kind of, I suppose you'd call them traditional media like TV or posters, actually it's the digital brands like Apple or Google or Airbnb who are using that. Isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's funny, you'll work with more traditional clients who poo-poo those traditional, and they go, we've got to do this. Actually,
it's funny.
The digital brands, so
because it all becomes real. It's an advert in the real world, and I think
they know the power of it, don't they? And they also know the power of the digital world because they own it, and therefore they know the limitations of it.
We talk about that a lot with the kind of direct-to-consumer brands as well, because they love out of home. Well, you got a poster up. Well, they do digital campaigns. They're obviously sitting on social a lot. But when you put their ad up on outdoor, they all go down to see it, take pictures. Like, our brand's real. Our brand is now real. It's up there. Look, it's on a poster. It's great.
I've got a photo of me next to every poster I've ever
had. Oh, great. That was going to be one of our questions, actually.
Did you... we saw the BBH thing for Tesco's for Ramadan the other day.
Very good.
Yeah.
You just look at that and you go...
very good.
Everything about that I love. We put up on our social feed just as a sort of ad of the day or something.
So I would include that. I think that was very good, wasn't it?
Simple use of time. It's perfect. Yeah,
beautifully shot. Shows the food.
Yeah.
No. I love the idea. I was trying to disseminate on the way home Monday when I was thinking about it. The line is not really a headline. It just said something like "Together at Ramadan." Go, okay. So the really hard working stuff is the tech. And I think that's a real lesson.
Nice. It's a beautiful image as well, isn't it?
Yeah, that stuff. Whereas if you don't have to get everything working, you just got to get one bit fucking great, and then you're on.
And also the thing about that, I think, is that it is not tech for tech's sake.
Exactly.
Yeah,
it's tech.
Oh, yeah.
You've been listening to our show, haven't you? We talk about that.
Oh, right, okay.
We always say that.
Soundbite.
Oh, is it? Oh, right. Well, I trust I steal all my sound bites. You'll be hearing them.
By the way, every time you say that, you have to give 10p to Dan's holiday fund.
Only 10p?
Yeah. But he gets some of you.
And the thing about the food as well is, it's like, I've always, when you start as a creative, you're always desperately proud when you do an ad that doesn't have the product in. And then after a while, you realise that's rubbish. And the best car ads have got cars in.
Yeah.
And as you say, it's the food, it's Tesco's products. And
dream,
the magic is in the idea that brings it to life.
I'd love to get them on, actually, because there's Kevin Christie, the CDs, but the team, or just someone, if anyone wants to tell us how it, because you can see the meetings, someone going, got to show the food, guys. Got to talk about Ramadan, all of these things. And yet someone's just gone, hold on, just like a before and after shot. Really that's simple. All it is, but with a bit of, right. Anyway, we're
just while we're talking about...
Your posters are brilliant at the moment, aren't they?
while we're talking about Mac delivery, there was a great campaign, I think it was 2 years ago now, that when they launched it in France, all shot through rainy windows. Did you see that?
I love that.
That was really good.
that.
And so
They're
all
like
of the
paintings, weren't
posters,
they?
they just look like paintings.
Yeah, amazing.
They're like oil paintings of French streets.
That was
and
brilliant.
It just said Mac delivery. Yeah, it was really good.
They were
That's even better, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's for
the right. Anyway, so we're going to go into your first billboard.
Right.
It's just a bunch of question marks here because we didn't know what it was.
Right.
So I'm going to sort of presume, actually, well, you can just answer because that's the point of having you on. Y&R with Graham Norways or not? Is that where you did your first billboard?
Well, I was thinking of this. I think in one of the emails you sent me, you said people normally cheat and make it a good one.
Oh, no, you can say a shit one, but I imagine it'd be a very good one.
So I actually think it was Carl Lewis.
Okay, so I have to interject there. If it's the Carl Lewis thing, then we'll just seg brilliantly into the next section called the work. Because I was thinking...
Whatever it was, it's now Carl Lewis.
Right.
That's what he's saying.
Okay. Do tell us about this very unfamous, hardly heard about it, Carl Lewis Pirelli ad. Please tell us a story. Here we go. Sorry, I'll just put that
So I think...
Do you want to describe it, first of all, for our listeners so they just know what we're talking about, in case they haven't seen... one of the
most famous adverts of all time.
It was for the launch of the Pirelli, I think P200 or 2000, which is a new tyre. And Graham and I got to the idea of powers, and I think without control as a big idea. And then it was a matter of, it was a classic creative process. Then how do you visualize that? And the brief was posters, wasn't any other media, and it was posters around the world. And it's Carl Lewis in red high heels, kind of in pose of the starting blocks. To run.
Yeah, of course it is. I mean, that's just such a natural leap from the brief. Right, I have to ask, how the effing hell did you get to that? Was he an ambassador, or did one of you, was it just oh my God, Carl Lewis in a pair of red stilettos?
It was that process. We got to Powers Nothing Without Control, and we had a wall, Graham and I, in our office of images that brought it to life. As I say, the brief from the client was we're going to use posters. The following year we did TV, and I don't know why we suddenly went to TV, although it was great that we did. It was, we're going to do posters, we're going to launch a new product, and it was, But
they didn't say to you, oh, by the way...
We've got Carl Lewis as well. No.
Oh God, so that makes it even better.
So there was, talking about the ad and the campaign, I find it was one of those, the stars aligned, and there's just so many good things that I feel very lucky to be involved with. There was... in this particular execution, you go, we want an athlete who's very powerful and is cool, and you want to be part of your brand. And at this time, you just went, it's Carl Lewis.
Right, okay.
So you basically had that situation where you went, if you don't use Carl Lewis, everyone's going to go, would have been good if you could have got Carl Lewis.
He's the fastest man on earth.
And photographer-wise, for celebrity conceptual photography, it had to be Annie Liebvitz. And again, and...
Can I just say that? But yours, it's a dream, right? Carl Lewis, Annie Liebvitz, massive shoot.
Well, you make a list, right? And they're at the top of both lists.
And nowadays you go, nah, that's never going to happen.
Well, so I don't know whether this transfer, but the thing I feel about advertising, which I think I've been very lucky about, and a lot of us have, is as a kid, we used to watch Blue Peter. And when you watch Blue Peter, there'd be that thing where Valerie Singleton would make something and you'd need sticky back plastic.
And a toilet roll.
We didn't have any of it. You know what I mean? Well, we had toilet rolls, but obviously not. And I remember just sitting there going, I'm never going to make this stuff. And I joined advertising, and after 4 years, you're right, Graham and I draw this layout, and we say, Aragon, Carl Lewis, and, we'd like Annie Liebvitz, and the client goes, okay.
And isn't it great when you sit on set and that's being done and you're like, oh, do you remember when this was just a sketch?
It was only a joke.
I didn't mean it.
But going back to the journey to it, so two big things. One needs to be Carl Lewis, and it'll be rubbish if it's not, and we need to get Annie Liebvitz. And I don't remember any challenge with Carl Lewis. I mean, there might have been. I was very junior, but I don't remember sitting there, everyone going, right, we need 20 other names. Yeah. But the Annie Liebvitz thing there was lots of times during the process, and maybe she wasn't available or whatever. Yeah. And, you try and learn as much as you can. And Graham was like a generation or two better than me before me. And we talked about other celebrity photographers. We talked about lots of famous advertising photographers who I'd love to have worked with. And Graham just went, no, it's Annie Liebvitz.
Really? Yeah.
And just a stubborn man, and I remember sitting in the room going, you're quite rude. I mean, you're a great mate and I like going to drink, but you're stubborn. And of course he was right and everyone thanked him for it. And it would have been very easy to have gone, yeah, it'd be fine to use someone else. And actually, Carl Lewis may have dropped out if he hadn't got,
because it makes me think of, without highfalutin too much, it's a sort of image that would be on the cover of GQ or something, because that's what she would do, wasn't it?
I felt
amazing image.
Yeah, and
you never forget it.
And so she, a very good close friend of mine, Brian Connolly.
I know Brian, yes.
So he lives in New York, and Annie Liebvitz's book came out, which was huge in size.
Oh, was it?
I should have bought it when it came out, because it's now 10 times right. And I think it's 50 of her favourite shots. And he sent that photograph from Brian. He sent it me. I'm here, and he sent it. He goes, I'm in this bookshop in New York, and
oh no way.
And he said that's his photograph.
Wow.
And
so wait a minute. So could you describe the shot that we're talking about?
So this is a very large book of Annie Liebvitz's favourite 50
what a compendium
or 100 photographs that she's taken, and the book is the size of a dining table in itself. You can't see the size of it, but it's literally bigger than this table.
Wow.
And my friend Brian has opened the book on the Carlo shot. It's actually, if you notice, it's a different pose than we use. And actually, it'd be good to talk about the shoot actually, because there was actually lots of very different images taken. And it's Annie Liebvitz, favourite 50, favourite 100.
And you think about how many photographs she's taken in her life.
Yeah.
And that features in the top 50.
Pretty good. But he's standing up in this one, which just doesn't look as good. Sorry, Annie.
Yeah. And also you'll notice he doesn't have a top on.
Yeah.
And actually, I can't remember why it was, and they're brilliant clients, and I can't remember the decision, but somebody says he has to have a top on. And it's, this is a long time ago, and me and Graham are going, oh no, this is going to look terrible. But again, creatives, you learn what to worry about and what not to know. No one thinks twice that actually.
No. I mean, the hero shot is brilliant because he's looking down a lens with that pretty mean stare. So again, juxtaposing that with the shoes, it's like, and what,
So...
Yeah, tell us more about
the... Because the thing, you meet Annie Liebvitz, and we work with her 4 times in, and I always got this impression that she's one of those people that would have been the world's best at whatever she'd done. Right. If she'd been a lawyer, she'd be the best lawyer. But also she took her photograph very fast. She's a people person, she's talking to you, doing this. There's no measurement of stuff like you get with some photographers. So she said, look, we've got him for a day. Let's do loads of different. So we did different poses, but we also did, I think we had him pull down on a kind of fishing net and lots of different stuff.
Right.
Not that we doubted this one, but she just said, look, let's
we got him, we may as well use him.
And I think there was a certain element of good photographers that actually let's do loads of stuff and then let's go back to the high heels and stuff.
Did you wet the track and make it a little bit moody?
And actually we took loads of stuff out. We left that standing, because this is shot...
Where is it?
It's in Houston, in Texas, near where Carl Lewis lived. And actually there's loads of stuff, but we left part of it in.
That's good.
Which, again, because, God, this is all Graham and Annie Liebvitz more than me, but, there was an element we didn't want it to look like something that'd been done in a studio. Because then you'd start, is it really him? Is he really there? You wanted to leave.
Yeah. It's great. There's all those questions down on a bit of paper. Like, did you go up, did someone, I was thinking about this morning. Who went up to him or... I love that moment. Someone would have gone, hey, listen, Pirelli have been on. We want to put you on their ad, And he's going, yeah, great. Yeah, you got to wear some women's shoes. I mean, was he up for it? Was he self-deprecating?
He was. The thing about, and it's weird, isn't it? Because, I've met a lot of celebrities in a lot of sports, particularly recently. And when you meet anyone who's at the top of their game, they are just brilliant people, aren't they? And I think Annie Liebvitz involved. He trusted her, I think in his head was, I'm going to have one of those celebrity shots. But the thing about, he was. So we did 2 rounds of posters with him, and we shot the commercial with him and the commercial we shot in New York and London, and he came to all those. And he's just very intelligent, very decent, really nice guy. And the other thing is, it was amazing knowledge, because I was talking to him and he just seemed to know lots about everything. And he said, you've got to remember, and he says, I'm a sprinter. Right. I spend a whole day waiting to run for 9 seconds. I read continually. So he'd read, and on the shoot again, he didn't say don't worry about it, because he just,
Right.
So, but I think the thing about this, I think it's that thing that one learns early on, hopefully, is that you're only as good as your team. So in this, I was by far the most junior member of this team. So there was me, who'd been working 3 years. There was Tim Lindsay, who'd come from BBH to transform one, who was brilliant with Jerry Judge. There was David Gray, brilliant, another brilliant account man. And there was Graham and lots of other people around it. And, and then the clients, so you're only as good as your team. You learn that. Yeah. And then that old adage that's completely true, and you believe it more the longer you work, is clients get the work they deserve. You know what I mean? And Anna Scotti and Giancarlo Rocca, the Pirelli clients, were just brilliant. They were just brilliant. Like, you'd walk in and they'd throw you out if it wasn't creative enough. Yeah. They didn't need research to help them. And when we said, look, we need Annie Liebvitz, and undoubtedly she was more expensive than, it must have been a punchy budget. You know what I mean? It won't. And they understood that and they supported you.
But you might, like you said, if Carl Lewis is thinking, it's Annie Liebvitz, rather than if you got some ad photographer who, in Soho might have been big,
yes.
But for him, he might be going, I've heard of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did he also, Joe, just interested, did he have to do some running before, or did they spray him down? Because he looks just ripped.
I think that's what he is.
Yeah, he's just, yeah.
When we did this, I think I did say, can I challenge you to a sprint 100 metres? Somebody, I think I did about 5
in the high heels.
Brilliant. No.
Yeah, he'd still.
Well, he'd have. Yeah, yes. Maybe not. Yeah. No, I think that's.
Just very briefly, because I know we need to move on. Graham Norways. So, was that your first gig? How did you end up with him? Because were you saying he's an older creative, right? He'd been around the block a bit more than you.
So he'd been working about 20 years by the time. So I went to Y&R, which I was at. My first job was a little Yellowhammer, which was, for anyone, was a creative hot shop. But that was only about 6 months. And then I went to Y&R, and I originally worked they got a job with a lovely lady, a brilliant art director, sadly no longer around, Magella Lewis. Right. And we worked together. And then Graham came in, and for a while I was working with both of them. And then Magella teamed up with a great creative called Rob Porteous. So I was there 5 years, which were brilliant 5 years. Made so many friends and I had such a laugh. And
did you?
So anyway, Graham was kind of freelance. He'd been in freelancing with a very senior person who'd then left, and they put us together. Yeah.
And do you think it was that propelled you to go to DDB? How did your move there go?
Well, it was so. I don't think any of my famous work got me to DDB, because what happened actually, the poster had come out. This. Yeah. But actually there was a copywriter called Jason Gormley, who was at BMP DDB, who was an Aussie, brilliant creative, who had done Pepper Army, It's a Bit of an Animal. Right. With his partner, Steve McKenzie. They'd got a job at BMP DDB. Steve McKenzie had gone back to Australia. Yeah. And Jason rang me up, went for a beer, and he said, look, I'm looking for a partner. Would you like to come? Right. I'd actually think I was... Anyway, I was thinking about moving, but I hadn't made any decisions. Anyway, so actually, Tony Cox and John Webster didn't actually ring me up. Jason went in and goes, I found somebody. So I went in and met Tony Cox. It was more actually they were looking for a partner, and I went in to see Tony Cox. And I walked in to see him, and he was reading the Racing Post, which I thought was a good sign. And we talked about the Grand National and stuff for a while. And then so he, I'd done the poster, so I think that helped. But actually, there was other work. Some stuff that Jason liked that actually was the reason Jason rang me. Anyway, but I'm sure it was the same for you, Hugh. I was Y&R, and it was Tim, Lindsay, and Jerry just had transformed the agency, but either BBH or BMP, DDB came with the two places that would it's different now, and I think it's better now that there's more. You can get great work out lots of places.
But if you're going to move somewhere, then you're going to DDB or BBH at that time.
They were the dreams, and I'd spent probably 5 years by this time, sitting in award shows. I mean, we did win very well for this, and Hush Puppies campaign, the Graham and I did, but I didn't want to spend my whole life being on the tables that didn't win very often.
Was that with Elliot Irwitt, that stuff?
Yeah.
All right, I'm just going to ask you something about that.
But I remember, so I went to see Tony Cox, and I was so, it was literally a dream come true to try and work at one of those two agencies. And as we talked about horse racing, and he talked about work a bit, and he said, right, how much should we be paid? And I said, well, I'm on this, but quite frankly, I'll come for anything. And he said, well, so we agreed on the money. And he said, I said, I'll go and resign then. And he said, well, all right, I'll write you a letter. You don't want to resign without. So Tony Cox got this paper out, and it had BMP DDB, and it probably had his name. And to be honest, even if he'd just given me the paper, just to have the paper with that name, you know what I mean? It was such a brilliant place to work. Anyway, he wrote a letter, you know, nice to meet you, I'd like to offer you this job. And he gave it me, and I walked off. And I think from B&P to Paddington train station is probably about 300 yards. And I promise you, I opened the letter 4 times and just looked at it. I think if anybody's seen me, they must have thought I was a complete lunatic. I was smiling at the paper.
Brilliant. What a moment.
But then I was very lucky because in the month or so before that, between that and then joining, the film came out of Carl Lewis that Gerard Thames shot, and John Webster particularly absolutely loved it.
It's funny because you see,
so that is, you know, so that made him.
You can see why I thought he was an ambassador, because you know, did a film with him, he'd done that thing, you know. So, you know, before we've had this conversation today, I thought, you know, because people go, I just worked on Rolex for a bit, and they said you have to work with these players. That's it, no one else. So I find it even more exciting in a way that you went, oh no, we just drew that. Like you said, Dan, and you turn up and going, oh my God, he's actually going to put the stilettos on. And there's Annie Liebvitz.
I love that about our industry, though, when you get on set and you go, this is all just a funny idea.
We better...
just before we do, though, that just on the last thing on Carl Lewis, we've looked at that in Annie Liebvitz's compendium of images.
Just get something. Carry on.
You're right.
Yeah, seems a cushion.
It's also in Campaign's 100 Greatest Posters of All Time book, which... we were talking at the top end of the show about what great posters are around. That is there now in history as one of the best ever made. So I mean, that is a big bit of kudos for you.
That's very pleasing. I mean, the other thing I'd say about the Pirelli thing, which I think was that possibly, you know, the best thing for me was I was about a few weeks after it had run, my mum rang me at work. So straight away you think something's gone wrong, you know what I mean?
Is everyone all right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And she said, they're talking about your poster on Woman's Hour.
Oh.
And, you know, I don't, you know, that, you know, you can take all, that was just, and, you know, I remember about the same time, a young account person came in with must have been 50 newspapers and put them on Graham Norways' desk. And it was just, you know, Sydney Morning Herald, New York Times, everything was just, on the front cover, and you know, that's
great. I remember my parents coming when we did. I've been working, I don't know, 5 or 6 years. We'd started the agency. I tried to explain what we do. Whatever.
Not interesting.
It wasn't until we did the Lynx Angel Ambush at Victoria Station. And, you know, they weren't far away, and I said, I'll just come down and have a look. And they stood there for like 3 hours. This is amazing. This is
suddenly some respect.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I do.
I bring angels.
Then forgot about it again.
They paid for my university education. You know, they've financed it. This is actually what I do. You know,
I just bring beautiful women into train stations. I'm Jesus. Okay, we should go and talk about a TFL poster called Eros, which ran when you were at DDB. I think you did it. I'm going to have to just refer to my notes here. There's a team, probably not a very well-known team, called Richard and Andy. Don't know who they are. And a guy called Nick Gill. Yeah. So on the credits, I was thinking actually, if you just need to put Tom and Walter on them, that'll be about the right level of the most heavyweight of credits. Tell us a bit about this, because I remember again seeing it, thinking it's just brilliant because it's that Hegarty thing, just simple. Yeah. And all it shows is someone's house, and then there's the river, and then there's Eros in the centre of town, and it says TFL.
Making London simple.
Making London simple. So could you give us a bit of background on that in about 7 minutes?
Yeah.
So
the first thing to say about is that there's a thing people talk about in our industry, isn't it, that pitch work never runs, which I think is absolute rubbish, because this campaign won the pitch.
Oh, right.
This was probably the first ad we presented in the pitch.
Really?
Right.
And we had to present about 100 ads because it was, you've got to do a ticketing ad, you've got to do this, you've got to do that. And actually, so we it's one of those pitches, that happens. You go, I think we've won in the pitch. I think we've won this. You know what I mean? They like it and it works for everything. And there was 2 teams on the pitch, myself and Nick and Rich and Andy, and that was brilliant to have 4 people on it. And Rich and Andy as good as they get, and Andy was a brilliant writer, Rich was a brilliant art director, and it's one of those ideas that's execution can go lots and lots of ways. You know, the red high heels, if I'm honest, is brilliant, but it is the drawing. Whereas this, you go, what does the land look like?
I know.
You know, I mean, is there any of the buildings and the clients are worried it looked like, you know, there's been a nuclear war and stuff. So, but...
This is Giles Revell.
It was Giles Revell, exactly, yeah, who did a lot. He did some brilliant work in our time at...
Because I was going to ask you, that was one of my main questions, because you go, okay, brilliantly simple concept, that's there, and then, right, job's a good one. It's kind of a bit like, why are you going to bring that to life?
Yeah.
And what is it, a model? Is it a bit of retouching? Is it a shot? What is it?
God, I can't remember. I think it's a lot of things.
Because it looks like a really sweet little model of a house and Eros, but is it?
I think what helped was, and you know, the good thing about London Transport, and we had this with The Guardian, is they made lots of ads and they made them quickly.
Right.
And you sell them, you know, so The Guardian was successful because they made lots of ads and it was fresh every day. So basically you could say to the client, this is today's ad, don't mess around, you know. And with London Transport, you know, we won the pitch. We had about 100 ads in the pitch. All the teams worked on it and they had to make ads all the time so you could make things happen. And, you know, and the kind of, the rule in the campaign that we gave the client was, you know, the message has to be simple and the ad has to be simple. You can't have a long headline. You can't have a tricksy. So actually, I think that helped this get through. And I think Rich was really good with the clients. You know, I think if it had been a one-off ad, I think it'd been harder.
Surely that's a kind of dream to say to any client on any advertising brief. Yeah, just needs to be simple, guys. You know, no headline.
But the thing about the other thing about it again is a kind of learning is that the original line was I just copied from those school books, which was Chemistry Made Simple.
Yeah.
So it was London Made Simple, and actually we won the pitch. It was coming around, and the client came back and said, "We can't make that claim, London Made Simple."
Right.
Because it's not finished, it's not complete. So then we had to go to making London simple.
Okay.
And you say that now, but at the time, you know what I mean, you know, windows are open, we were going to chuck ourselves out, you know, right, none of us are working on it, all that kind of stuff.
Brilliant.
And of course, it's probably better, you know, making, you know. But the interesting thing about it was, so that, I think it was, I think that may have been the very first ad in the pitch, or certainly in the first few of the pitch. And then the next ad in here, which is...
Oh, anyway, that one.
Is probably the last ad we ran 5 years later or 4 years later on the account. And it's basically the A to Z, which people don't have anymore, but it's the Victoria line cut into a straight line as if you went on that Victoria line journey in the tube, as opposed to if you drive. And I basically cut it out of an A to Z and I had it on the wall. So this was Rob Jack and I. So I had 2 years, brilliant years working with Rob Jack. And it was on the wall. And it was one of those, you know, and again, all creatives know this, you have these ads and you go, I've got to get this to run, I've got to get this to run. And for whatever reason, it hadn't run.
And it was on the wall for a long time?
It was a long time. And basically, we were making a VW Golf commercial called Labels with Frank Budgeon.
Right.
Obviously a genius. Sad that he's no longer with us. And we're just sitting going through the storyboard. And he just looked up at it and he went, oh, that's really good, isn't it? And then just carried on.
Oh, God.
We'll explain his storyboard.
Brilliant.
It was like, the meeting before the pre-production meeting.
That's
but he
the
just
final seal of approval of Frank Budgeon.
Well, quite frankly, it's got to run then. You know what I mean? I thought, you know, if it doesn't, you know...
If he looked at it and looked back down and think,
Frank, you know, Frank, like 2 years later he asked you. So basically, that was really, we've got to make it run. And I think, I'm pretty sure if there's the account person was here, they'd go, yeah, I mean, we forced it to run in the last weeks before
they lost the account.
Or just, it was a
It's another brilliant, very different, you know, very different from Eros, but it's like, I love the way you can play with things. Yeah. I mean, because I remember just, you know, I had to lean in on that one. I was like, what is that? And then it was like,
And of course, the thing, as always, like it happens, I actually cut that out of my A to Z, and Rob and I moved around. And then, of course, you put it into the studio and they over-art direct it.
No, I hate that.
And actually, that is my cutout with a bit of drop shadow.
Really?
Yeah. Well, that's a horrible thing when you show a client a mood film and then they go and shoot it and they go, yeah, do you know what? I just want to run the mood film. It's like, no, we just paid this director about.
But the rawness of stuff.
It's better, isn't it?
Because Rob, Jack and I did another, it was a print, there was posters as well, which was Power in Disguise, where we got powerful animals pictures of them, and we graffitied. So we had a shark and we put a pipe on it. It was.
I love the pipe thing.
And I mean, it was shameful really, because it won best illustrator at Campaign Big, and the person who came second was some famous Japanese.
Beautiful illustrator.
Yeah. And I was like, that's just so embarrassing.
Yeah. Typical advertising jury, just to like piss people off.
We jump into VW next.
Yeah.
You got VW Cops.
Yeah.
This one.
So can you just tell, before you go into it, just tell us the line. I'm always interested, this line, small but tough, Polo.
Yeah.
Who wrote that? Do you know? And if you don't worry.
No. It was...
Was it a planary type person who cleverly went, this is the...
So that is a sensational segue, because basically, the first thing to say about this is the brief came in, small but tough, and the brief had been in many times.
Right.
And there was a lot. I remember Jeremy and I'm sure every creative went, oh God, we cannot do anything with that, are we? And actually this one brief garnered Cops, King Kong, 2 posters, 1 pencil, Kangaroo Paint, and a brilliant campaign, Stephen Martin and Rich Dana as the account man, the small but tough crosswords, which every Friday we did a crossword next to the cryptic, which was 3 by 3, ridiculously. And that got a pencil and a can gold. So it just showed that actually, if the idea is right, you won't run out of ideas.
That's what I was because I've worked on campaigns where the line, like something recently on BBC on Vigil, the deeper you go, the darker it gets. Everyone thought, it must have been someone who wrote that. It was a strategic. I don't even call it. They call them planners on the marketing side of the BBC. But we all just kept going, that's the line. Don't need to mess with that.
Yeah. I mean, it probably would have been brief. I mean, I won't get this exactly right, but there was lots of, again, the kind of, the perfection you try and have as a creative person about that it should just be tough. And I think there's an argument probably from somebody much cleverer than us that go, it should be small but tough because we can't own tough. And then we're going, that's 2 things. That can't be right. Oh, no, of course, absolutely wrong. And
tell us about Cops, because it really is, it's just a brilliant piece of work. I mean, back to what you just said, because in my mind, I was imagining it was a kind of, when we used to see Egerty on Levi's or Audi, you would just have piles of this stuff. You would just be like picking out gold. Was it like that on this account? Or not?
Well, the thing about VW was being the creative directors on it and then being the creative director of the agency had it was brilliant because you could argue it's the best advertising account of all time, but it comes with a huge responsibility and fear of not doing it justice. And I think I sense that lots of creators, when they joined DDB, thought that it would be really easy. Right. And of course, it wasn't. The client,
because it's a marquee client, and
because you just go look at all the brilliant work that's been done.
Right, okay.
And actually, it wasn't. And the clients would drive us mad, rightly, and be very picky. What happened, of course, because they're brilliant clients, they'd go, it was unwritten that, we are picky, but when you get it right, it's going to be great. So, creative teams would stick with it. So in answer to your question, there was probably a long list of 50. This completely jumped out. You didn't have to be much of a creative director.
And was it a wall? Did they all go up on a wall? And
I think it was literally a
stack.
Was it like, I'm always interested because did it look like this? Or did you get to this?
The drawing was pretty well nice. It was actually 2 teams had it.
Yes.
So there's
Nick and Simon, Dylan and Fergal.
Dylan and Fergal. I can't... neither were very far from this. One was pretty well this. If my memory serves me, it was like, take it and please recreate this. I mean, again, there's this other thing, isn't there, that I always find slightly irritating, where people, certain people in our industry go, oh, great ads sell themselves. And of course they don't. And this is hard to buy because although it's easy to look at now and go, that's great. I mean, it is a shootout.
Yeah.
Now, there's no guns, but it is the scene where people get shot. Yeah. Now, we had, Fergal, Dial and Nick Simon were very clever, and the photographer, and that there's no guns in there, but you think it is. But it was sensitive. And actually, there was a shoe on the floor on the road that the client asked us to take out rightly. Right. And I don't know where it was just,
Because it was there, or because someone had placed it?
I think it was just there.
Did you? So did you work with the photographer Paul Murphy on developing it, or did you work with the creative team? You know what I mean, to placate the client, or sometimes you can sell it and go, we'll figure this out, and we start talking to the photographer.
No, I mean, the VW clients were brilliant.
Yeah.
I think they just, I'm just saying they went, just look, let's make sure it's got a smile to it. Let's not have any guns. Let's not have anything that apply, and
it's
get
because I imagine, I'm looking at that. I'm imagining there's guns there. But I'm not,
you can't see one, can you?
No, it doesn't bother me at all.
So they were, it's a great client relationship, and they're going, we love it, it's the best, we're going to make it, yes, but let's just, and I think the clever thing about it is it didn't go cartoony, because it could go cartoony, couldn't it?
Where was it shot in LA? I mean, it feels like it
was shot in America more because you could get it's easier to send
cars.
one Polo to America than it is to get all those.
I mean, it feels like a still from a sort of Tarantino film or something. I love the tire marks. They're all telling tiny bits of narrative, aren't they? It's just but again, it's work with great creatives, work with great photographers, and they'll. I think again, hopefully memory serves me correctly. It was for the UK, and straight away the whole of Europe took it, and straight away the whole of the world took it. And it's great because I suppose did
that tend to happen with good work on the account as a global account? That they go, it gets picked up, and then it goes to the local markets, and they'll say, we'll take that. And
I think if you're running, VW Australia, you'll go, can I run that? And as long as the car is the same car, but again,
it's what you don't see, isn't it? Because here is going to be some mad person,
What is it?
But you don't, do you? I mean, did any point in any time did the photographer or anyone say, we need to see a hint of something on the bottom
God,
right?
No, I think that was clear.
That was like we're well away from it.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to move on. We're going to go down
King
the screen and we're going to talk about
So
King Kong.
I can't remember whether this was in the original part, but it came very soon. And then we kind of had that problem that we had a brilliant ad that everyone knew was going to be brilliant. And we didn't need any more.
No more,
But again, we knew the more good ads you make, the better it is. And again, the clients knew that, you know what I mean? And it came from their brief. It wasn't a scam thing. So, and again, I think how it worked, we said, right, let's buy as a 6-sheet campaign. I don't know whether my memory's made this up, but I think it was near cinemas or something. So we found a role for it.
Yeah, we actually we featured this on our socials, and I'm sort of being a bit naughty here because I sort of know Nick Allsop and Simon Vex, and they said they wrote. I don't know if this is true, but it sounds a great story. They came up with the idea for King Kong on the same day as having the idea for Cops,
right?
And they said they left the layout on the wall for ages. And another creative at DDB, Michael Kaplan, kept badgering us to get it made. And then I'll pick up what Nick says. Eventually, we approached Paul Slater to illustrate it. An account handler called Richard Stainer found a media deal called the Cinema Package.
Oh, right, there you go.
Because of the cinematic reference in the idea. Used to promote movies with ad shows and postcards. The finished illustration and media package were enough to get the client to sign it all off.
Well, there you go. My memory is right. Yeah.
So
they did it at the same time. Yeah.
So you basically got two belters.
Yeah. But I mean, it was a worry because, the client could rightly go, guys, we're making the best, what could be the best ad of all time. But as I say, that was the great thing about VW. They weren't easy. They were, they wanted the strategy to be right. They were very picky, rightly. But, if it's going to lead to success, you'll work. So many clients in the old days and now will be very picky, but you'll go, well, we're not going to get to something great. So, but anyway, so it was
being picky for the right reason is fine.
Yeah.
If it makes the work better, it's fine.
What I love about the King Kong is the fact that, although we'd said earlier that, you think you're getting away with one by not showing the product, but quite often you should show the product. But in this way, you don't. You just think the big fella's got a real grimace on his face.
Yeah,
you know what's happened.
Lego brick, isn't it?
But it's a classic. Yeah, it's really good.
But it's not removed. That is an image of the result of the product.
Yeah,
exactly.
Where you get it wrong is you write a story here and you find some remote link to your product there, and that's where
Yeah.
So, But I mean, VW was, as I say, it was a great brand to work on, and
we're going to do one more. And this is very appropriate because the sun's out at the moment.
It is.
The new Beetle Cabriolet. So this is a bit more recent, isn't it? This is well,
it was probably only a year after Cops and King Kong.
Very different though, isn't it?
Yeah. And I think Jeremy and I probably had in the head that we wanted to do some different stuff. I mean, so, it's an illustration of summer images made out of the Beetle.
And the Beetle product had a bit more of a playful tone to it anyway, didn't it?
Exactly. Yes. And, I mean, this sounds mad, doesn't it? But, again, it's a great client. this was the Mark II Beetle. It'd come out 3 or 4 years earlier, and this was slightly changed. So it was an important launch, and we'd gone, right, we're going to own summer. The cars were actually pastel colours. So they weren't the colours in these posters.
Oh, right.
And I have to say, you sit there, and Jeremy and I went, it's not very good, is that? And we chatted to the clients, Catherine Wolfe and others, and Richard Stainer running it, and I think she probably said, "Look, guys, we're selling a feel.
Yeah,
we need to get people. We're selling. It's that is the
you're selling the joy of owning a Beetle soft top
that gives you. That doesn't mean the color. Which feels terrible post rationalization.
Which is the joy of summer. It's the It's not.
But they're very. I mean, again, they're a bit arty, aren't they, Gov? They're a bit Andy Warhol. I'm pleased that they didn't. Because it would have really screwed the car. You need to have the right colour.
It wouldn't have felt summery. It would have felt slightly Manchester in the winter. Yeah. But it was good, and Jeremy and I were really keen to try and get all creatives to work on stuff. So I think there was about 6 or 7 executions across 6 or 7 teams.
My favourite.
Funny, different favourite, because I like which is yours, Dan?
Bees.
Yeah, bees. I think that, because there's something about the bees one. I don't know, I was going to ask you actually, Ian Bilby as your illustrator, how that is hard to pull off, but I know what it is immediately. But at the time, you're probably going, oh, do you know what we're going to do? We're going to get loads of things of the Beetle and make them look like bees chasing something. Like, that's never going to happen.
I'm forgetting which creative team was that, but that, to be honest with you, all of the ads were made by the creative teams.
Right.
There was no leap.
Oh,
we then got an illustrator to do them all. And sorry, no offense to the illustrator, but that...
Sorry, Ian. You are concluded, but you weren't collaborative as much as we thought you were. No, because sometimes you get this... Miss Goldsby are much more like that. We'd get half an idea and get someone in.
So the illustrator did make it better, and it's not exactly that. But my point being...
No, I know what you're saying.
It was on the wall, and the magic of that shapes and stuff was there, and that was made to... Because you could make it. It was all get the photocopier going.
Well, it is like cutting stuff out, isn't it? Old school, which is...
and lots of teams are credited, and rightly so. And as I say, Jeremy and I were keen to do something that felt different, to your point, Dan, totally different. And
a team effort as well. It's great.
How was it to work with a certain Louisa Algram, my old partner? Was she really charming and fun?
She was brilliant.
Hello, Lou. You won't be listening to this.
She always made her partner look good.
Oh, that was good.
That was good. That was well timed, actually. She went for a drink. Right, well, let's...
That's normally mine.
Oh, thanks for coming in, Ewan. Go fuck yourself.
We haven't got onto football yet.
No, I love even worse. Right, we're going to go...
We'll definitely be closing on football. Don't worry about that.
Oh, no. We're going to move out of DDB. I mean, how on earth do how do you sort of contend with that incredible place you're at? But you did more great work at what it was actually called CHI.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Clement Hornby Ing.
So again,
partners.
So
it was Clement Hornby and Partners, right? And then the AND partnership.
The AND partnership.
There was lots of good work we talked about there. Quite a lot you did with Matt and Wayne. We've got one of theirs.
Yeah.
You had loads of good stuff. Actually, but shit, I've got my order wrong. We're going to go to here.
Yeah.
So we're going to start with the Sunday Times Rich list. Now, I was looking through D&AD, and I was looking at all, you type it in and it all comes up, and there's Rooney and Fergie, and there's the Fat Cats and all of that. And then there's this campaign called Equations, where, you have 4 Simon Cowells equals 1 Sir Andrew Lloyd Webber. And I looked at the date, and this was pre all of them. So did you originate it? Right. Because that's quite a big thing, isn't it, to start?
So we had the Times and at CHI for the whole time I was there. So it went to grey after I'd gone to America.
That's right, yeah. So it's nothing to do with you.
Nothing to do with me.
Did you really did that? Yeah, sorry, I did that.
And it was a brilliant client. A newspaper brands are always brilliant clients. So The Guardian was brilliant when we were at DDB and has been brilliant everywhere it's been. And I think because journalists are writers, they believe in the craft, they believe in ideas, they want you to work as fast as them, which can be tricky. And it, CHI, we had a good run on work and as good as any of our clients. We had lots of good clients, and we ended up, fortunately, lots of good work thanks to the teams we had and everyone. But the Times was really, really strong. And, on the Times, you'd have to do a lot of more hard-working stuff, but 2 or 3, 4 times a year, something would come along. And the Rich list was that. And I think this was the 3rd Rich list we did. And I think this was the one that more than ever set it up as one of those campaigns that you look forward to the next one, and it became a winner.
Yeah.
Okay.
And all credit to when it went to grey in that they kept the standard. They were using pencils.
Yeah, no, Dave Monk did a great job on that.
Absolutely.
Did CHI have all of the News International account? Yeah. So they had the Sun and...
No, sorry. No, or Time. The Times, sorry.
The Times.
Yeah. The thing I'd say about this was it set that up, which I was very proud of. And Matt and Wayne are a fantastic team. And, God, they've worked with me 4 times and made me look good. The thing about this was, so again, there's a pile of, let's say there's a pile of 50 ads, different creative teams. Again, this one stood out way above all else. You just looked at, but there was two big challenges at hand. When you looked at it, and as a creative, I looked at it, I went, that's a winning idea. That's better than it. In that comparison thing is what you do. You go through it.
Yeah.
And then, so that leap Matt and Wayne did, and the strategies did, and then to link it to a subject. So like all the Rolling Stones equal Paul McCartney, 4 England footballers equal the manager.
Yeah, what the context is the interesting stuff.
Yeah. When I saw, I obviously knew, I think, these funny with campaigns, they always, someone picks a thumbnail and that's the one you see on the internet and that. But when I flick down, my favourite, 2 Jamie Olivers equals 1 Bernard Matthews, beautiful. And I just laughed my socks off. It's very you and Matt and Wayne that.
And that's the third element of creativity, actually, isn't it? Anyway, so you looked at it, but there was 2 things. One is when I presented it to the editor, who is it Matthew Harding? And he was brilliant. And he was the editor. You had to show the editor. And he wouldn't let you present.
Right.
You have to it's supposed to just show me. So
right, okay.
It's good.
That's Alexander Taylor talked to us about that.
Anyway, so I showed it to him, and I think we'd done a bit of warming up, and we got something brilliant. And he went, "Yep, I'm going to run it next year." And running it next year, it normally means that's never going to see the light of day. Yeah. But it was just after the crash, and he said this year's got to be about money's gone up and down.
Okay.
That's got to be the campaign. And actually, we ended up doing something with fruit machines and stuff that actually was pretty good. But that was the first thing. And brilliantly, when the year came around, Danny Josephs, who was the accountant who ran it, came in and he said, get your equations out.
Right.
The client.
So they remembered. And
absolutely brilliant. The other thing about it was, again, it was an idea that conceptually you went, that's going to win, I think. But there wasn't an obvious execution of it. So again, cops and red high heels, you kind of draw them.
Yeah.
And it's just doing it justice. You could write this idea. There wasn't an obvious way to make it look brilliant. So I'm sure maybe Matt and Wayne were more confident. I did have this thing going, how are we going to make this look brilliant? Because again, there's no obvious way to do it. And we had Craig Ward, who had lots of brilliant creatives at CHI. Craig Ward was the designer, and he was brilliant. And him, Matt and Wayne sat together and they made these building blocks, kind of equation stuff. And some of it not 100% obvious, and I remember they showed me the layouts, which was, we didn't photograph, it was made in the studio. Craig Ward and the guys made it. And I just had this amazing feeling of relief and joy that you went, actually, you've made it better.
Yeah.
But then also maybe, I don't know if because you had that year in between, sometimes with creative routes, you need that little bit of...
To walk away and come back.
Yeah. And you don't get that now. Or you do, I suppose, if you say, look, next year, but how often does that happen? Like you said, I think... Yeah, the very good one also is at the time, because this sort of dates it a bit, doesn't it? You've got Posh and Becks, and you've got a lot of them. I think there's about 20 or 25. And then who are they equaling Philip Green?
Philip Green.
And would they be closer to him now?
Might be the other way around now.
Yeah. but it's
But the idea is so rich.
Yeah.
While being so simple. There's no headline, it's just a product name.
And also I'd forgotten this Pillock. Actually, Gareth Southgate is an amazing manager compared to this idiot.
Although he'd be the other way around. It'd be 20 of him equals 1 footballer now. But
yeah.
Right, 5 minutes remaining. Oh, God. So we need to move on to Times.
Oh, Sugar. Sorry. Yeah, sorry, Dan. Got it wrong.
Yeah, so this is an interesting one because working with the Times, they were brilliant because they would simplify everything. I remember coming out of meetings. I remember coming back from a meeting with Simon Clemo, and the client had said, take that out, take that out, take that out. And we said to each other, is there anything left?
Yeah.
So we ended up running a campaign which was just The Times, just said The Times, and it had the crest, and through were images of our time. And of course, literally Simon and I go, and of course, this thing about seeing things in the real world, when you saw it, You went, oh, that's good, isn't it? And you have to credit the client for that. We had headlines and stuff, took it all off. Anyway, 6 months later, that was done well, and and then Janny Josephs came in with Frank Blackwell, who was head of traffic and services, and said, oh, we're going through all the stuff and we need a campaign for the Saturday. And I said, we're busy, don't put it into the creative department because we're going to run the Saturday with images of Saturday. Let's not waste our time, we've got other stuff to do.
Got it.
And again, simplicity's a great thing. Ben Etheridge and Mickey Tudor, great creative, went out and found great images,
Yeah, I was going to say, did you shoot them or were you given them?
We found them. Yeah. We found them.
And also, you get access to the Times' back catalogue of photography.
But there's and this is going to sound so wanky, but no, it's not actually. It's the space.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing the Times, sorry, for people who don't know it goes and there's a thing, and it goes Times.
Yeah.
And I always think it's a really great thing for a media outlet to, you can put your thumbprint on anything. We were talking about Twitter, how they did it in 2017, where they just put a hashtag in front of Trump and then put the bird, and that's us. And I think this is a kind of forerunner of that. But I wish there were more of these.
Yeah, and I'm literally putting my hand up and saying the client has to be credited because they drove that simplicity that you're saying. And, it got nominated. It got nominated at D&AD. And it was the last thing I did at CHR before I went to America was go to D&AD. And part of me didn't want to win because I thought, if I get a pencil for this,
you feel imposter because it was a throwaway.
Literally.
Right, we're going to move on.
We've got time for the last one?
We've got this.
Time for the last one, and then we've got
favourites.
a couple of extra little questions.
A little bit of tennis.
Yeah, so this is
Robinsons, right?
Robinsons, who we all know are the official drink of Wimbledon, and it's from my time running BBH Sport. The interesting thing about this, actually, and one of the so it was 7 years we ran BBH Sport. It was part of BBH, and that's what was so brilliant about it because it was a separate company and all that had its own P&L. But basically, we sat within BBH, which helped bring clients and everything. And actually, this was a BBH client,
right?
But suddenly, how it was managed, but suddenly we had 24 hours to write the poster.
Right.
And it's a bit weird considering Wimbledon comes around every year normally. And normally about this. So basically it was an all department and I put my hand up and said, can I have a go? And in my head, I'd always had the kind of juice gag.
Yeah. It's got to be there somewhere, but that's how you do it.
And I remember saying to people, it must have been done and I can't think of it. But to your point, I had that idea and I remember it. I must have spent 4 hours with a glass of wine and layout pad to get down to the simplicity and pithiness of a...
It's a great...
And it's a supersized, one of the mega
I think it's
digital, mega 96, what they call
double
it.
96 in Southfield's Tube and on the way.
Yeah.
You sure it just wasn't a banner? Looks like...
Well, it was a banner. But the great thing about it being that length was, because you had the hassle of 2 logos and stuff and all that. But anyway, it was... I did a lot, BBH Sport might have been my most enjoyable time and just being part of sporting events.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I wasn't really, but just say, we wrote the Robinsons poster and stuff.
But it's nice being involved in culture, isn't it?
Exactly.
Like that, rather than uberly pumping product.
And also I like the fact that it was a brief only for a poster.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that, obviously we want things to live everywhere, but...
Right.
Oh, God. I forgot.
Right. So now the last 2 things.
Your favourite billboard of all time.
Now he's cheated and he's given us 3. 4. Right. Go for it.
So, this is like picking your favourite film or your favourite song, isn't it? The first things that came to mind were brilliant campaigns that launch brands or make brands famous purely on posters. And use it brilliantly. And we talked about Apple now, so what I haven't put in here, but I would have thought about was taking on an iPhone, shot on an iPhone, which is just absolutely fantastic.
No Economist.
Economist, yes.
Interesting.
Also, the original iPod posters.
The dancing ones with a white. Yep, great.
But then
he's cheated now. He's got
TV,
6.
but that was a TV that went to posters, right?
Right. Okay. Oh, he's a hard man, isn't he?
Yeah.
So Heineken, thinking about my time before advertising, posters at their best were part of culture, weren't they? And I'm not sure there's many now.
So the Heineken one you've got here is J.R. Ewing. So he's looking for J.R. Ewing from Dallas.
Yes.
Who shot JR, nasty JR.
In context, he was a horrible, horrible man.
He was very horrible. Can I just say,
gets a halo.
Is that a still of him and just someone's hand is coming in?
Yeah, but that's what makes it better.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And at the end, he's got a halo after Heineken refreshes the part.
So that literally lives centre face over. So there's a Heineken campaign, and to be honest, that was the only one. That's the first one I found. But Heineken refreshes the part. GGT, who are obviously a great agency, and when you're learning your trade as I was, you'd use all their campaigns. But the LWT campaign, which again was do an ad to tell people about a program, which is always the simplicity of that. And this is a hand holding a bullet in 1963, a missile destroyed America. And creatively, it's as good as any there, but just it's got an emotion to it, which made this one stand out. There was one which was Hurricane Warning, which was Hurricane Higgins and the pockets of a snooker table blown up, which was destroyed, which is great. But just actually, while this is a very simple, you could practically draw the layout, it's incredibly emotional idea, isn't it? That missile destroyed America.
Yeah.
And then the other big campaign is Benson and Hedges.
Yes, sorry.
Which again, just, I think the thing about posters more than anything else is that they're huge canvas. And I think joining the industry, I loved films, but actually the idea, I think anybody's creative wants people to see their creativity, don't they? So I think, and the Benson and Hedges, whether it's pyramids or whatever it is, they were just beautiful. But I think if the thing was one piece of work that you could say I've done it, is the Tate Gallery by Tube. And I'm not sure it won any awards. It might have crept into D&AD. It was done by a small design agency, I think.
Can I just do a thing? I worked there. It's called The Fine White Line.
Right.
And I remember seeing that there and I thought, fucking hell, that's good. And I think they'd admit they never did anything as good. They were cool, but this was done by a guy. I think David Hughes was his name.
Right.
Someone.
Sorry, and they might be very big, but all I know is, and I think because they maybe designed didn't enter D&AD, but I mean, it's possibly the most perfect. It's got a pun in it, which obviously I absolutely love. It's got a brilliant visual idea, which is the tube made out of the paint of a tube. It's got Pimlico where you've got to go on the. It's the most complete thing. And actually, I think it's probably ran longer than, it probably ran for 10 years. I think everyone at the Tube said, can we run that? Because people...
But you could buy it as well. I remember you could buy it as a poster. Okay, well, sorry, we're rushing you. Last bit,
right.
I promise you. So sadly, we won't be able to talk about football and how good your team are and how shit mine is and how Dan's is getting quite good. Tips. Posters. We always ask people what are your tips to aspiring creatives or people who are just still in the industry? Do you have any little rules you live by or?
Well, beyond the obvious technical ones of, pictures are great and words, there shouldn't be many. The thing I think about posters, again, why I think I would want to concentrate them on, and I think it's why when you're starting, you do more posters, is they are pure, aren't they?
Yeah.
The thing I think that's great about posters is it's a real challenge to be concise and pure and make it work instantly. And also it's really more obvious in a poster that it's got to be impactful. When you write a script, you can go, it's going to get better and more interesting.
Yeah.
Well, there's nowhere to hide in it. So I think it's a perfect...
With a poster, it's about how much you can take away, isn't it? You take it away. The idea is still strong. Take that away, it's still there. Like the shoe in Cops.
Yes.
It's not adding anything.
Yes.
It doesn't. Yeah. If it's not adding, take it away.
So I'm not sure it's a tip. It's more do more poster ideas because it's brilliant training for the mind and creativity.
Well, it's the thing. I suppose if you ever trying to explain anything, invariably you're sort of creating. Well, it's going to be like this, and there's this, and you're sort of always when you're sketching stuff down. That's that thing. If you can say it on a poster, you've got it.
And I think to your point, Dan, is I also think if you can do all that and be emotional.
Yeah.
Again, to that LWT or the
make someone feel with the poster.
Yeah, Cops does that, doesn't it? The Beatles stuff, as you said. I think that really is when you've cracked it. If you can simplify it, make it impactful, and actually get an emotion.
I think we're on this podcast, and we have amazing guests like yourself on here, and we talk about this stuff, and we talk about this stuff in industry. I was away last week on holiday with another family, and the parents don't work in advertising at all. But they can recite the same billboards that we can because it's affected them in some way. Same TV campaigns that we can. They remember the jingles. They remember the headlines. They remember the Hamlet. They remember the Heinekens. You know, because
the good stuff.
It's part of the fabric of us growing up and of our great cities that we've grown up in. So,
and I think it's interesting, isn't it? Because I love film because you go on a journey because it's slightly unknown and it can get better and worse. But I also love posters for the opposite. That actually it's down to you.
Yeah.
Yes, a photographer can realise it really well, but basically it's on you.
Well, like you said earlier, you can't really hide.
No.
It's all that, and you can't skip it. Like Hegarty says, you know, you can't like fast forward it. It's there. So if you got a good one, great. If it's
and it is a huge canvas, isn't it? What a brilliant canvas!
And it gets bigger every year.
All right. Well, look, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, what a great day.
Brilliant.
And your voice
Absolutely
has
brilliant.
held up very well, didn't it?
Yeah. Must be all that whiskey we've put in.
Thank you, Ewan. Thank you so much.
Delight. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thanks for listening once again. Always a pleasure to have you with us. Please like and subscribe on all relevant channels. Cheers.